Hi, I'm Dr. Steve Vargo, and this is episode 24 of Can I Ask You One Question, where we dive into the minds of industry experts and thought leaders, and we just try to learn one critical thing from them that we can apply to our own professional lives, sometimes even our personal lives. And what I'd like to talk about today is branding. And there's a good chance you may recognize the person that I'm here talking to today because he's done a good job branding, being seen, being known, and that certainly benefited his career through things like a social media presence, podcasting, speaking. There may be others, but you're the only one I know who's done a TED Talk. So welcome, Harbir Sian.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Steve. Really pleasure to be here, man. Appreciate it.
So happy to have you here. And as a segue, not everyone aspires to have a national presence, but on a local level, I think building a local brand, when people see you, they know you, they hear about you, that can have a lot of benefits toward building a practice, building a community, a following, even locally. So my question to you, Harbir, based on what you've learned building more of a national brand, what suggestion would you have for someone wanting to strengthen their local brand?
Absolutely, Steve. I think these days it's absolutely vital. Thanks for the question, by the way, and for having me on to answer this particular question, because I feel like it's definitely my forte these days. It's being a personal brand is sort of a hot topic these days, but it's actually, I think, really, really important in a lot of different ways to, as you said, to develop and grow personally, but also grow your business. So I have what I call my three pillars for branding, and these three things apply to online and offline, right? So if a person is trying to develop their local kind of brand and reputation within their community through, offline or in-person type events, it can be applied there. If a person is trying to grow their online presence and try to grow a more national or larger, broader presence, it can apply there. So, excuse me, the three pillars are pretty simple, and I think if they're applied sort of consistently, day in, day out, people will find that they will eventually start to get success. A lot of times people will come back and be like, I did it for a month. It didn't really do a whole lot for me. Okay, but the number one thing is always to provide. So the first pillar, number one, is to always provide value in every single situation and every single experience and interaction that you have, to go into that thinking about how can I provide value to this person or to this group of people. How are they going to leave this conversation or this engagement somehow knowing more, feeling better than before they started this conversation with me? Or on social media, how is a person going to view this post and then leave, scroll to the next post, but scroll knowing that they've learned something or gained something from it? And, value can come in a lot of different forms. It can come in, obviously, for me, the obvious one is education, but, humor and emotion and other ways to make people feel better. That's a way of providing value too. So we can do that through social media. We can do that when we speak with people and help them feel better just by listening, having empathy, those, really simple things that I know we all know about, but maybe we don't always practice, in every single engagement. Excuse me. So number one is to provide value. Number two is to be engaging. And this means multiple things. Again, if we look at the online side of it, it means when somebody comments on a social media post, you respond, you reply, thanks for responding, or continue the conversation that they've somewhat started on that post that you've made. But again, keeping online, social media, going out there and actually engaging in other people's conversations, right? Social media is just this giant conversation with all these different people. And the point of it is that it's an open conversation for you to just go ahead and engage. Like Twitter is the best example of that. You could just jump into anybody's conversation, but it's a little chaotic, right? But on Instagram, for example, use the hashtags. If you're an optometrist, go search optometry related hashtags, go see what posts people have made, and just go ahead, leave a comment. I know it seems a bit awkward, but do that. And that's how people know you exist. You kind of have that back and forth with new people. You start to gain new followers. And of course, if you're looking specifically for gaining traction in your own community, look for hashtags related to your community, to your local demographic. Whether it's events that are happening, whether it's, so for example, one of my offices is in a city called Surrey, British Columbia. So I can easily search the hashtag Surrey, BC, or Surrey, BC events, or, stuff like that. And lots of stuff comes up, especially if you're in a bigger town. And you can just start to engage with people there. You could search eye-related terms. If somebody posted something about their red eye, you can jump in on that conversation. There's a lot of ways to engage online, and it feels awkward online. It also feels awkward in person, right? If you go to an event and you don't really know anyone, it's the same as walking up to somebody and introducing yourself and having a conversation. And that's the offline component of engaging, is going to local events, community events, engaging with the community, whether that's just going as an individual and shaking some hands, or as my friend Daryl Glover likes to say, shaking hands and kissing babies. He's all about that. Or it means going and setting up a kiosk or a booth at some kind of event that's happening to really, to have more of a footprint there. But number 2 is to be engaging and to engage. And then number 3 is to be consistent. And I think, when I speak to any successful online social media personality, they might be good looking, they might have really cool content, they might be whatever, but the number one thing it always distills down to is that they're always consistent. They're always posting regularly. So in the online world, consistency means 2 things to me. Number 1 is putting content out there regularly, and I'm not too worried about that side of things. If you're a business owner, a clinic owner, and you're wondering how many times should I put social media posts out there, don't stress about that too much. Let's just say a couple times a week, a few times a week, something like that. But as long as you keep doing it, right? Again, a lot of people will do that for a month or 2, and then they'll take a pause for 3-4 months. So obviously there's not a lot of consistency there. It's a long-term consistency that's more important than weekly or monthly consistency. But the other type of consistency, which is actually more important, is the consistency in our tone and our voice across platforms. And so this is what crosses that online offline border, right? This is what takes us to the offline world, the in-person world. What is the voice that you have? What is the message that you're sharing? If somebody finds you on Instagram and they hear you or see you, are they going to see and hear that same person when they meet you in person? Are they going to see and hear that same person when they see you on LinkedIn versus Facebook versus Instagram? Or can you see that you're different in all these different platforms, right? You want to have that consistency, because that really helps to build your brand. It's like going to a restaurant that you love. Let's say there's a chain restaurant that you love going to. Sorry if you hear the kids. But you go to it because you like the food, you like the ambience, but you're going to get that every single time, no matter which location you go to, right? That's the consistency. That's really key. And that's really important in any brand, including your personal brand. So those are the 3 pillars. And like I said, I think they apply online and offline. And, of course, for me, I've deliberately been trying to grow sort of a larger presence. I used to be shy about saying that, but I had a deliberate intention of doing that. And over the last 2-3 years, I've been working at that. But there's benefits to people who are not looking to do that. If you're just looking to grow your local presence, to attract new patients to your clinic, to be the kind of eye care expert in your little space, is extremely valuable to do all these things online and offline, to go engage with the community, to find them online as well. I've personally seen, so while I've had the opportunity to do the speaking opportunities and the TED Talk and stuff like that, which has been greatly rewarding, on the other side, I've seen new patients come in to see me weekly, at least, if not even daily. We have people saying, "Oh, found you on Instagram," or something or other. It blows my mind when somebody says, "I'm driving a couple 100 kilometers to come and see you." They could go to X number of clinics in between their place and my office, but they've chosen to come and see me because they feel like I'm an expert in dry eye or whatever the space is that they've seen me talk about. So it really can help you reach people in a different way. And really help your brand and your office to grow. Hope that was okay. That was a fairly long answer.
No, that was long, but to your point, had a lot of value and very engaging. I think, just to follow up real quick on that, the consistency is so important, and it's where a lot of people just fall off. And it's
Yeah.
interesting because I think some people feel like if I'm putting too much out there, you're going to overwhelm people. But it's such a fragmented audience out there these days that gets things from YouTube, from Instagram, sees people in person. So I do think that consistency is really important because it takes time. I think what a lot of people do is just maybe they start putting out a few blog posts, make a couple of videos, do something like that, and then don't see that payoff in the first month or two, and then they stop doing it. And the other thing, just to add to that, would be that I think what we see a lot of times when someone's building a brand, whether it's a personal brand, a professional brand, is they over time start to sort of find their lane, right? What is it that you really, and it should reflect your own voice. It should be you. It should reflect what you're interested in, what you're passionate about. But as you, I would encourage anybody, just get started. But once you start to do that, and if you enjoy being out there to some degree, even if it's just in your community, start to find your lane. What is it that you're really passionate about that you could be known for, and building a brand around that? Because it's hard to be everything to everybody. And this is something I tell people in private practice. If you're, it's difficult to be an all-encompassing brand versus, like you mentioned, dry eye. It's not as difficult to be the dry eye doctor in your community, but you have to work at a little bit to build that reputation. If you're the only one who knows that, but your patient base doesn't, then that message really isn't resonating with them. So they've got to hear it from multiple platforms.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah, that's a consistency across the platforms, writing blogs and doing these other things just to kind of, like you said, fragmented audiences, right? Trying to touch them, get to them where they are. Yeah, definitely. And the starting thing is the most important thing. So as I mentioned, if you don't mind me adding on here, a few years ago, I made an intentional decision that I thought there was a space for me on social media to kind of create a presence, and I leaned into it. And my, one of the things I did initially, so I was not always that comfortable getting on my phone and looking at the camera and talking to it like I do now. It's fine. But I challenged myself to do on Instagram the stories, and that's easy because they only live there for 24 hours and they go away. They're short. It's not like this long post that lives online forever. As far as I know anyways. I did a challenge myself for 30 days to put out a short video on my stories, a new topic every day, something eye related. So every day I picked up my phone. Okay, hey guys, just going to talk about UV. I started on July 1st, which is Canada Day. That's a holiday for us here. We're out at the park with the family. And I was like, okay, it's sunny out. I got my sunglasses. Today I'm going to talk about UV, and then I'll go from there. Every day I'd come up with a topic. And there were days where I didn't feel like it, or I forgot, and it was 11 p.m. and I thought, crap, I got to put my video out there. But I stayed with it, and I actually ended up staying with it for over 100 days straight. And I stopped because my daughter was born, and things get a little busy with your second kid. But I was also satisfied with the 100 days. But what happened was, you're right, I found my voice. I was comfortable talking about certain things and not certain things. You find which topics resonate with people. It's interesting when you just start consistently putting information out there. You grow, you learn what your audience is looking for. It all starts with just doing it. Start where you are, start with what you got. And you'll be surprised that after a few months of doing it regularly, what happens.
Yeah, you start to figure it out. Well, I've heard a lot of podcast hosts of successful podcasts say they're so embarrassed when they go back and listen to their first one because they took them a while to get their voice, and maybe they were trying to sound like somebody who wasn't them in the beginning. I've experienced that in public speaking. I mean, the person who gets up there now on stage, much more comfortable, conversational, inject humor. That was not me in the beginning, but it took me a while to find that. So, man, thanks so much. And we've enjoyed watching your career develop and your brand develop. So I knew you'd have something of value to share with the people listening to this. So where can people find out more about you, or at least listen to your podcast?
Oh yeah, thank you. So the podcast is called the 2020 Podcast. I know it's not the most original name for an optometrist, but the 2020podcast.com, or my sort of broader platform is called aboutmyeyes.com. So I got some blogs and some YouTube videos and stuff, including the podcast is on there. And then of course you can find me on Instagram. I am at harbirsian.od.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks so much, Harbir. Appreciate having you on. I've been on your podcast before, and
Yeah.
thanks for taking a few minutes to answer a few questions here. So, and thanks for everyone for listening. And you can find the show notes for all episodes, including this one, at drstevevargo.com. So thanks again, and we will see you next time.